So, there was blood.
There was blood, yep.
So it lived up to the series. Well, bye.
That's what I expect.
So, hi everybody, Julie is here. Viga was not interested in seeing a movie about people getting tortured. Mm-hmm. Can't imagine why not.
And learning,
this valuable life experiences you can get if your life is in danger, especially after a madman puts a bucket on your head, put a chain around your neck, and forces you to give up blood in order to, get past it.
Learning inside, also, soldering skills were also learned in this briefly. But we'll get to that part.
And the important part of when a door says no exit, to not try to use it as an exit.
Yeah, don't do that.
I love that this, in case you didn't know, this is Julie. She plays Erin, and most recently, Empira.
Yes.
We'll see a bit more of her in the episode to come. Mostly because I had to push the storyline bit from last week to this one.
Yeah.
So, we just saw Jigsaw, a.k.a. Saw Legacy, a.k.a. Saw 8. So, you have never seen any Saw movies before, but you're familiar with the series.
Familiar with the series, and then, I like lots of older slasher and horror movies, but a lot of the newer ones I'm not that up on.
And Saw, of course, has the reputation for pretty much starting the torture porn craze. But honestly, it's not that, as someone who watched it in the last year or so, finally, mostly thanks to Welshie's wonderful retrospective that he quit after the fifth one, and then he stopped making videos in general, which, Welshie, you can come back now, new Saw movie, opportunity. Anyway, so... It's not like Hostel, where the entire point is to torture people. The purpose of it is more reminiscent of a unique slasher killer, where he kidnaps you and forces and it's about moral lessons. Because the theme of the Saw series is appreciate your life.
Yeah, and it's definitely the thrill of will they get out of this trap or won't they? Not we're cutting through their flesh. Look at that! Isn't it gory and gross? Like there isn't really that much of that at all.
And the traps are still fairly creative. Some of them are a bit reminiscent of earlier traps, but not too elaborate. I like to avoid, no major spoilers right away, but I like how the chain pulls them, then it transforms into another trap.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty neat, tracking along. And yeah, like the trap with the motorcycle, like that was interesting. And you also had no idea what the hell you were looking at first, really, with it, which I kind of liked. In fact, at the beginning I thought it was like a toaster coil. He was gonna burn the guy alive.
Yeah.
But I guess I should know better. The guy's name is Jigsaw.
It's a motif. But the funny thing is, he even mentions this several times throughout the series. Jigsaw is the name the press gave him.
Yeah.
He never calls himself Jigsaw. The closest he gets is when he says to a guy, "I am the one you call Jigsaw."
Right.
Because to him, taking the puzzle piece off a body was symbolic that the people that my subjects were missing something as part of themselves.
Okay, that went a little bit there. You kind of wanted people to see that one, right?
Yeah.
Because who's gonna learn from that if they're already dead? So,
yeah. Okay, ready to go into spoilers?
Okay, yes.
So, this is not a reboot. This is indeed a continuation. My one sad point in this is I love long-running horror series, and I'm glad we have another Saw movie. Even if this turned out to be bad or awful or something like that, I'd still be happy it was made because I like, new segments in a franchise. I miss that kind of direct-to-video kind of let's keep making movies in this series for as long as we can kind of feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I don't know why Hollywood producers are just so self-conscious about it. Where they're like, we swear we're not cashing in. This is the last one. And it's just like, there's no need for shame. There's no need to stop numbering things regularly. You can just go to 9 and 10 and so on.
People love it.
That.
So, but the one disappointment then is that as a Saw sequel, Saws 1 through 7 pretty much follow on one after another. Maybe a bit more of a disconnect between Saw 1 and 2, but it's still Saw 1, 2, and 3. There are loose connections, but it doesn't feel like it falls. It doesn't necessarily feel this happens directly after this one. But especially 3 through 7, they seem to follow one after another.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of sad that this one now, it's 10 years later, we have no returning characters aside from Jigsaw himself. And that is the question of this movie. Is Jigsaw somehow alive again?
Right. And, well, you can reveal that one whenever you want.
Okay, I will reveal that right away. No, Jigsaw is not alive. That's not alive. Alive. He's aloe. He's alive. Yeah. No, John Kramer is still dead. We don't know what the hell happened to his body.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a magic trick to put that other guy's body in his grave, because you would think they'd have noticed that the ground had been disturbed by then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, that other plot point we know about at the end that it would be easy for him. But I gotta say, okay, so I've never seen the Saw movies, never seen like Jigsaw proper, Alex Tobin.
Tobin Bell.
Tobin Bell. Okay. And like, I don't know, I like, as soon as we realized he's not back, I missed him.
Yeah.
I like him. He fits right in there. Like, I think initially when I hear about this serial killer who teaches people to appreciate life by having people fight for their own lives, I'm kind of like, okay, come on. Like, that sounds like a really contrived plot point. But then when you actually have his performance in there, it really, really ties it all together. Maybe because he feels like a person you maybe have met. Partially because you could tell this guy is such a nerd that you're like, yep, that's exactly how someone like that would kill people.
And Tobin really does get into the role. He loves doing this, and I think he was paid like top billing in Saw 3D, even though in total he has 2.5 minutes of screen time.
You know what? He deserves it.
Yeah.
And okay, like this is gonna sound like weird, but like also more relating, or just like also how I know he's oh god, I'm gonna put it.
He's a perfectionist.
He's a perfectionist. Like,
yeah,
he feels also very familiar, and like, I don't know, partway through I was like, why does he feel so familiar? And I was like, oh my god, he reminds me of my dad if he was a serial killer. Because my dad is a huge nerd. He's a physicist and a machinist, so he would absolutely kill people with traps if he were so inclined. Obviously old, beard, somewhat of an accent, absolutely would also approach his victims in black sweatshirt and black lounge pants.
Oh yeah, the hoodie.
Absolutely. Like, that tied it all together. I was like, oh.
There are very. I tried to inform you of various iconic Saw things, and of course I kept forgetting them. And I was like, oh, by the way, he wears a pig. He wears a pig mask.
Right around.
The black hoodie is another one because we see him always wearing that. It's usually a robe actually that he's usually wearing with that.
I feel like I should have known about that one, but when I saw it, I was like, oh god, what now? Is there like a Jigsaw cult?
And I expected that kind of thing, especially because one of the revelations of this movie is that there is a huge Jigsaw following.
Right, the website. Jigsaw
like a dark web fan group of Jigsaw, people who love Jigsaw and like share information about the traps. And one of the characters is a huge Jigsaw enthusiast and has her own little warehouse full of either recreations or possibly originals of some of the traps, including the hacksaw from the first movie, the gun trap that was behind a door from the second movie, and of course the reverse bear trap, because everyone has to have the reverse bear trap. It's the iconic Saw trap.
And then also becomes a plot point that she has the coil trap that we find, and that's a new trap. I think she said that she recreated it because she got blueprints for this Saw trap from some anonymous collector online. And the plot, and of course we then see it in action in the scene afterwards. Right. Yeah, and so she built it herself. But there's kind of the question of, did she take it from a crime scene? Whatever.
Was it like a prototype for what we saw? Because of course, because as per a regular Saw movie, there is the police investigation, and then there's the actual game being played.
Right.
And in this case, they fake you out in this movie because there's lots of question and lots of evidence being left behind saying, is Jigsaw still alive? Is Jigsaw actually alive? Because we found DNA from his blood, underneath this victim's fingernails. We found this voice recording that is clearly from him.
It's clearly from his voice.
So the question then becomes, is Jigsaw really alive? And his grave has been robbed, and he's not in the grave anymore. And they fake you out by making you think that Jigsaw is alive because as the game progresses, we finally see the guy behind it, and he takes off the hood, and it's Tobin Bell, it's Jigsaw. And of course, I laughed my ass off because if this was a really bad sequel, the things you would do is you bring him back to life.
Never had cancer.
Never had cancer. It was all a trick.
Yeah.
It was all this elaborate con. We saw him being autopsied. We saw a doctor drill into his skull to try to help relieve pressure from the cancer. Nope, all a trick. He's just that dedicated.
Okay, so they never actually went inside there. Okay. Or
I would. Okay.
Oh my god.
Maybe he's lying on a hospital bed throughout most of the third movie. So maybe yeah, he's so dedicated that he let her do that, but there's no actual damage. And then at the end, the other guy who's went through the game sliced his throat with a saw blade. Yeah. So I get how he did. He's actually underneath there. It's like a trick head. I could totally see Jigsaw doing that because he's that much of a weirdo and so dedicated to his game. But no, it turns out that the entire game that has been played is in flashback. Mm-hmm. And I kind of called that at when I realized, these bodies that are showing up all over the city, and they're supposed to be the bodies from the game that's being played. Mm-hmm. It seems kind of odd that that whoever's doing this would be able to just get them there so quickly from wherever they are. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're out in the country, and they are.
Right.
So it's how is he able to sneak in? And this person just died a second ago, and clearly we would have seen someone come in there and take the body away. So clearly this game has been happening for a while now, or at least mostly over by now.
Yeah, and the first victim we see, basically he makes it to the city, gets shot. But we never actually see him in the game segment of it. We do see someone who has a bucket over their head go into a saw machine, but we don't, never see his face. So it's kind of okay.
They did set that up nicely. I of course tried, when you watch these movies, you try to start paying attention to all the little details.
Right.
The main game that is being played is 5 people, and kind of an homage to Saw 5. Where we had where people were being pulled into some V-shaped blades that would cut their heads off, and the trick of that game was that the 5 were supposed to work together in order to escape the trap.
Right.
And in this case, we have 5 people being pulled. They have these helmets. They have these buckets on their heads. They're being pulled towards saw blades, and the conceit is you have to give up some blood in order to escape this trap. Doesn't matter how much, just a little bit. So of course people just take a little bit of cut in order to do that.
The puzzles were not as convoluted as I thought they might be.
Yeah, sometimes they really can be. So I'm glad they kept it relatively simple this time. Even the shotgun one, I kind of saw coming. I knew there was another trick to it because
I knew the key would be in the bullet, but I didn't know it would fire backwards on her. Yeah.
And it makes sense when I warned you, pay attention to everything he says because there's always a double meaning there.
Yeah.
What I expected was, especially when they had the camera rotating in a circle, and he said, "You must turn things around a bit." Maybe he was like you're supposed to look towards the door as opposed to each other.
Yeah, or just not do things the way you usually would, and let someone else die for you. Try to think of another answer.
Because it's very rare. It always makes me tilt my head whenever in one of the saw traps, Jigsaw says as only one of you can survive. Because Jigsaw always gives the people a chance, and he takes pride in the fact that as he says, he's never killed anyone. He lets everyone else kill themselves. He just puts them in the position to do that. It's still psychopathic behavior. It's still his fault that they're dying. But he says, I will not kill people myself. Everyone does it to themselves.
I guess that's a little bit of a disappointment to the ending that we saw with our legacy guy, where he's just like...
One could argue that he failed his test when he hit the button for the other guy.
Okay.
Because he clearly, it was just to buy himself some time.
Right. I don't know, but also the point of the game was that, to confess to win. I mean, he's still being a shitbag, but... True,
but again, you could argue he failed his test when he had the chance to actually sacrifice himself.
That's true. He tests them on more than one thing. So, okay.
Yeah, usually if you pass the test, you don't get put back in the game again. You are given your life back.
Okay. And then you probably become an apprentice.
Yeah, there is an astonishing amount of people in this world who are just, ready to snap the fingers to become psychotic killers and help them out. Because we are now up to the 4th Jigsaw apprentice, at least.
Oh my god. Discovering the meaning of life by also becoming a serial killer obsessed with.
I mean, technically more if we count his ex-wife, who technically helped him out a few times. Not like, actively, but she worked in like a drug rehab clinic.
Okay.
And he basically said, my method works. Here's this person you said was incurable, and my method cured her.
Okay.
Sure, it put a reverse bear trap on her head, but still.
Did he do that to like stop someone's drug addiction, or was it for
basically, yeah. The exact words she had after said and done was, "He helped me." Because she fought so hard for her own life to make sure she would not go through this again.
Okay, that's a little weird, but all right. I know one of the steps of recovery is usually at least for the 10-step one, they say it's like finding something above yourself or finding a purpose. That would slot into that, but it's kind of fucked up.
Well, yeah, he gave her a purpose.
God damn it, Jigsaw.
Do you know how the reverse bear trap works?
I do. I assumed it was just a bear trap on your head with the teeth facing your neck.
No. The way the bear trap works is it puts the bear trap is already technically opened.
Okay.
Already closed, but it's put inside your mouth. And wired shut, no minor cuts in there too. And then once the time runs out,
God. Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and we see that a lot throughout the series, and we see the creation of the first reverse bear trap because Legacy Guy, I cannot remember his name.
Oh my god! So that's what that was supposed to be.
Yep.
Like a pentagonal reverse bear trap.
Mm-hmm.
To turn him into a blooming onion.
Oh, that will. That was not the reverse bear trap. That was the laser trap, which.
But it's kind of like a reverse.
In this case, it was an actual trap, which actually came down your head. It's a little sci-fi for me, but I think that those cutting lasers do actually exist. I don't think it would turn you into a blooming onion.
Yeah, they definitely do exist. I think they're usually green, but anyway. Which as a side thing, I've heard that sometimes scientists working with those cutting lasers, they'll have people who aren't scientists walk in and they'll reach out to touch it, thinking it's harmless because it's green. Literally, and they're like, what the fuck? Literally, just because it's green, they think it's okay, for go. But if it was a red laser, they'd be like, fuck.
It's a laser!
Yeah, don't fuck with lasers.
You can see it cutting a thingy.
Lasers are rated in, what safety equipment they can cut through.
It's a deadly beam of light.
Yes. No.
You don't touch the laser.
But I think I get the point of the laser trap because, to fake his own death, he had to have the harmless lights, and, he couldn't do that with knives. But he could make hologram knives. That's the next step. Maybe he'll make hologram Jigsaw.
Hell yeah.
Maybe.
And he had Billy puppets, too, which is always nice.
He had a Billy puppet, but maybe how he, we saw him just editing out the voices from previous clips.
Yeah, that felt a little odd to me as a video and audio editor. Mm-hmm. It's hard to make things match up like that when you cut it up. It would be more like, yes, the games will begin.
Exactly. What I kind of imagined before they showed that was this guy developed a Hatsune Miku Vocaloid software with Jigsaw's voice.
More or less, the Saw universe tries to exist in the real universe in a way that you could see it happening in reality. Of course, there's always to the extremes they go to, you gotta like just suspend your disbelief. But they try not to keep make things so ridiculous. Right. It's also why Saw 3D was kind of a little bit out there, because some of the traps were so big and so elaborate that it's just like, this is dumb.
Yeah, I think the part where it kind of broke my suspension of disbelief was the grain silo trap, where he traps two of the people inside of an empty silo, and then the guys on the other side basically telling him like the only way that they'll live is if he pulls a lever to cut off his own leg. And meanwhile it's like filling up with grain, and they're like just trying to swim to the top, and then eventually it stops, and then like knives come out of the chute, and then like saw blades, and then they're like they cut some of them, and then they never sink below the grain, and just like all of that. I was like, that's not how that would work.
Especially because it seems completely unnecessary, and clearly we saw it in IMAX 2D, but I'm sure there's a 3D version of out there where like the things are coming down.
I think, but it would have been a bit silly if it was literally just grain.
Well, the thing,
I mean, it was already a little bit silly.
It's okay if it's just grain, because sometimes the traps are that simple. In Saw 3, there's a guy who is put inside of an industrial canister, and pigs are slaughtered above him, and basically he almost drowns in the guts and viscera. Ugh. Yeah, it's a gross trap, but it's the kind of thing he would do, because it's not always about blades.
Yeah, there's nothing quite that gross in this one, and we did talk about how it's very brightly filmed. That grain, there's a filter on it. It's bright red. It's yeah.
Yeah, well, if there are a few, I like the film overall. But there are problems with it. One of which is the cinematography. It doesn't feel like a Saw movie.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like a horror movie. It's very simple. There's, like we talked about, how there's not that oppressive atmosphere. That's even in the first Saw movies posters. Like, those are ugly and gritty and desaturated, but this is nothing like that.
Yeah, the Saw movies are usually very, very gray, very brown. They are meant to be kind of grimy kind of movies, because it exists in a very dark place for a lot of this, and it works.
Yeah, and I know, like, people at the time were like complaining about, why is every movie desaturated? Like, I think like it's fine, but they need like that they didn't do that, but they needed to find another direction than what they did, because this is like so. It just.
I would say it's colorful, but you can see so many colors on it.
Yeah,
it's clean.
Yeah, it's very clean, but I even noticed that like as they're going through the first couple rooms, there's like a predominant color palette. Like I think the first one's blue, the next one's like gold brown, and then obviously when they're in the silo it's red.
Yeah,
like I don't know, there needed to be a little bit more direction on some of that.
Yep.
The characters like
fairly flat for the most part. That's one of the other complaints.
A little bit flat, but like they didn't feel outlandish or unlikable or anything like that.
Except for the guys you were supposed to hate.
Except for the dicks, yeah.
Especially the cop. The cop's a major dick.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things that kind of struck me was how quickly he seemed to suspect the coroners.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he leapt to that conclusion pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there needed to be some other characters, because fairly early into the movie you kind of realize, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to revolve around like these different characters. And I was already trying to like plot out who would be. I knew it wasn't going to be the woman who idolized Jigsaw, because it was just a little bit too obvious. A
little too on the nose.
Halloran, no, that was a corrupt detective.
Yeah, that's too easy a solution.
I either figured it'd be the main coroner, or I also suspected the detective Keith, but I think I misunderstood, because I thought he talked about there's a victim who dies from like acid being injected in their veins, and he talked about seeing that in torture in like Fallujah.
Yep.
And I don't know, there was something like that and something we saw on a screen that made me think, wait a minute, maybe he met Jigsaw, or like if he witnessed torture, maybe that made him like interested in Jigsaw and he became an accomplice. But no, he's just a cop.
Yep. The revelation of him being in internal affairs was a nice twist. I like that.
And that would also be like a means for someone who wanted to be like Jigsaw, because he's seeking out corrupt people.
Yep.
That's a great position to seek out corrupt people, is to be an internal affairs investigator.
And Hoffman in the Hoffman trilogy of Jigsaw movies, that was his thing. He had access to all these files, and it's how he helped supply Jigsaw with his victims.
Okay.
Or his subjects, I should say. He refers to them as his subjects.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that Jigsaw had like a supplier, because I was like, damn, this is a busy dude.
He is. He really is a busy guy. And in Saw 3D, we learn about all the victims who we didn't see on screen. Because we just follow a specific groups of people in each of these movies. But damn, if he just like always spends so much time working on stuff. And I explained to you how he's rich and he has like access to so much real estate.
All the real estate. I kind of wonder a little bit like how he chooses his victims, but maybe some of it's like
he chooses his victims very carefully. We see a lot of them when we see in like Saw 4 and 5 is that he took a lot of them from his ex-wife's rehab clinic.
Okay.
Because lots of people relapsed or, they didn't appreciate the life they had. And sometimes he makes it personal, but more often than not, he does not. He usually is pretty dispassionate about it because that's his thing. He needs to be removed from this, or else it's not true justice, it's not true things.
Okay.
And that's kind of one of the points of this movie.
Okay.
As we learn that the actual person who does this is a coroner. The Jigsaw of this movie is a coroner who used to work as a nurse, and a simple mistake he made ended up having it so that they missed his cancer diagnosis a little, and as a result, they probably could have treated the cancer earlier, but because of his mistake, John Kramer, was basically given a death sentence.
Yeah, I mislabeled the X-rays, and they showed that in like some of the first games. He was one of like
there were 5 people. One of them was unconscious and didn't wake up until he was almost at the saw blades. And Jigsaw, after we thought, the film gives the impression that he died because he just like gets pulled into the saw blades. What we later discover is that he managed to get the blood out and managed to get the helmet off. And Jigsaw realized his mistake at the last second. It's like, crap, I made it personal, and I should not punish you for that mistake.
Yeah.
You're not a bad person. You just made this mistake that cost me all this.
Mm-hmm. So he sews him up.
Jigsaw is always the most compelling part of the Saw movies.
Yeah.
It's why the flashbacks are kind of necessary, and why they realize how they wrote themselves into a corner when they made this a franchise, because he has to die at some point, and then when they killed him, well, we got to keep him around somehow. Yeah. So flashbacks.
Yeah, and then pretty much like they're like, what is it? They're having a nice talk while he's teaching our main I don't remember his name, but our main coronary guy like how to solder. He gets frustrated, he's like soldering with Jigsaw, and he gets all frustrated, throws it down, and then Jigsaw's like telling him like
you can't let emotion enter into it.
Yeah, and you gotta have like patience and all that. And he's like, or why? And I learned that from you. And then it's like, and they get back to soldering together, and it's adorable. And I really wanted that like training montage.
He has those human moments, especially if you watch the other movies. Yeah. You see those moments where Kramer has his humanity, because there's. After he tries to kill himself, he mentions this, that he was basically reborn as a different person. So you see John Kramer, the happy man, versus John Kramer, the serial killer. Mm-hmm. And just like it's a switch that flips, where he becomes completely out there and just wants to do his work.
Okay.
Let's see, what other problems or positives can we say? The victims of the game are, it feels like there could have been more. One revelation that I don't think we had before, one of the victims, a guy by the name of Mitch. I'm sorry we can't remember some of these names. It's the problem with having so many characters and they don't say their names enough times. With Mitch, he sold a motorcycle to a man, and he knew the brakes were faulty, and as a result, the person died. And he knew that was a possibility, and he didn't care, and he just got $600 out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jigsaw puts him in the trap, but what we learn, according to Jigsaw, was that this was Jigsaw's nephew who died in this trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know Jigsaw had brothers or sisters, or any other family.
Yeah. Now, wasn't it the nephew who died on the motorcycle? Or...
The nephew was the one who died on the motorcycle, according to him.
Okay. Yeah. So we got that revelation.
I don't know if that's going to lead to anything else. I was kind of...
He has a brother. It could be another possible apprentice.
It could be a brother or a sister, because I don't think they actually said if it was a brother or sister.
That's right.
But when Tobin Bell was revealed, I was almost half like, did he have a twin brother?
Yeah. Oh.
Is that what they're going to say to get away with this?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I would be okay for that. I was so on board for them doing that, because it would be so schlocky and stupid, but so goofy that I would be all for it.
Uh-huh.
Just go balls to the wall. He cloned himself or something like that.
Oh my God.
But that's an interesting revelation. I wonder if they're gonna if they make more movies. I wonder if they're gonna go anywhere with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, the character's really kind of flat. We learned that the main girl, quote unquote, her deal was that she was actually Jigsaw's neighbor.
Okay, yeah. And basically, like, she just had a baby. She couldn't stand dealing with the baby.
She was having a stressful marriage, too.
Yeah, and so she put the baby on, like, the bed with her husband while he was sleeping, and then he rolled over and smothered the baby in sleep. And at first she's saying, like, tries to just blame that her husband did it, not her, and then she confesses.
I think the implication is actually, especially when they have the shot of the pillow, is that she actually suffocated the baby herself with the pillow.
Oh, and then just... Okay.
And the reason Jigsaw knows this, that it wasn't a lie, is because he was the neighbor and he overheard her screaming at the baby. Probably saw her do it.
Probably saw everything. And
so, yeah, because otherwise there's no reason to believe that she isn't doing it. And, of course, the asshole lives. That's also a kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Well, as much as you... Actually, no, he didn't live.
No, she didn't live.
He didn't live. I forgot about that, because in the end we reveal that the 3 victims were not the same people who were in the game. They are other victims of New Jigsaw.
Yeah, so the apprentice was recreating...
of the game he was a part of.
The games that we're seeing, because those are the flashbacks for this one. And to trap this corrupt cop. And, I was kind of on board with main girl a little bit. Like, it was kind of cool. Like... It was kind of cool that she tried to save Mitch. Mm-hmm. It was like all jumping around, cat-like, and trying to like... She sticks some rebar into the motorcycle wheel to try to stop it, and it works, but then it,
Yeah. I would have told that, once that happened, I think the guy should have kept reaching down to hit the brake just to be on the safe side. Because, in a movie, something like that's going to snap, even though I think that looked like a metal pole, so... I don't think the wheel would have been able to bust through like that.
Yeah, that felt a little weird. The one we're talking about is like the coil trap. It's actually like, it's kind of like this cone with like a spiral blade that's like spinning and is powered by the motorcycle, and he's like lowered down into it. And the only way, and away from on the bottom.
Yeah, he has to reach down to hit the motorcycle's brake in order to stop the trap.
And he's like, and I assure you, like, Jigsaw's all like, and I assure you that this brake
actually
works. Like, yeah, he packed that salt right in there.
And we see a bit of Jigsaw's predictive thinking. Jigsaw says once in one of the movies, if you understand human nature and you make good predictions about how people will behave, you know how this will play out, and you can, plan accordingly. So in this case, Brian is the guy who disobeys the rules and tries to escape out an exit, and he falls down and gets the wires trapped around his leg and that are ever tightening. And the tape specifically says, when he has to cut his own leg off in order to save the others, the tape specifically calls out him. Mm-hmm. So clearly he knew he was going to be the one who did this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else? What else we got?
Let's see.
So, overall, the movie is okay. It is not great. I would love to see more, Saw movies. Mm-hmm. I like New Guy. I think we could definitely see more of him, especially because he's a family man. Yeah. That creates an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah, yeah. And he's a right mix of kind of relatable, but you could see how he could be like really creepy.
Oh yeah, when he went evil in the end, it's like his voice went like deep, like Jigsaw there for a second.
And yeah, definitely a lot of hate coming from the eyes, shooting towards Halloran.
Yeah, Halloran, that was his name, the asshole cop who, man, there's just so many elements in the Saw universe that are just recurring problems. We got people who are easily convinced to become serial killers.
Yep.
We've got lots of corrupt cops.
Lots of corrupt cops. Let's see.
It's kind of incredible how many of those there are in this city.
Yeah, but lots of Jigsaw fetishists.
A lot of Jigsaw fetishists, apparently.
Apparently. Maybe we'll meet more.
And yeah, I like that they actually, clearly this was originally supposed to be called Saw Legacy, especially with the guy at the end when he says, as like, his legacy will be yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And he fights not to necessarily prove people should live, but he fights for the victims.
Yeah. Yeah, he says that he speaks for the dead. I'm glad they didn't call it Legacy. I'm not always a fan of those, like, franchise name, thing. Or, like, generic, powerful word, like, revengeance.
Retribution, resurrection.
Retribution, resurrection, origins.
Revelation.
Let's see. Where's some other goods?
The origin, you said?
Insurrection. So, yeah, I'm okay with that. But I hope, yeah.
I kind of like those kind of goofy tales, especially when they called. I think it was either Saw 3 or 4. They called it the final chapter.
Yeah, I just love it when like they just get pulled back in. Yeah, like a little bit denser, I think, and then just a little bit more creativity with the filmography. I don't know, like, did they kind of lighten up on some of like the gory parts to try to bring in new people? Because I think that's how people criticize the Saw franchise, is like, it's too gory, it's torture porn, etc.
I'd say the gore was, for the most part in this one, about on par with some of the others. The woman who gets the 3 needles injected into herself, that one was a bit on the gorier side. We see like half decapitated heads and body parts. I think it's fairly tame for the most part. I'd say fairly tame. It was gory, but not any more so than any of the other Saw movies. I think it's probably a step back. I did not like it at first until we got the twist, because it felt like a lot throughout it that it was fairly boilerplate, fairly a bit boring. It's like, I don't like any of these people. They're not great. I don't want anything bad to happen to the victims of the game, but at the same time, it's like, just nothing really that compelling about it. Then the final reel kicks in and we get the revelation of what the hell's been going on. It's like, okay, huh.
Yeah. So that ending was, so it was a lot more interesting. I did not see that particular twist. Except I thought Keith was going to be in on it.
Yeah.
Be the new apprentice or something.
But overall, it was okay. Not great, but not terrible.
Yeah, no, like, I enjoyed watching. I was, like, brought into the story. Yeah, no, it was a good watch. And, like, the traps were exciting. So,
And it was very interesting. It was interesting seeing them figure out the traps and how to work around them, because, like, some of them seem a bit vague with Billy coming out and just having the word confess written on there.
Right.
And
you know what surprised me? I did not know Billy was life-size. I am so used to seeing him in, like, YouTube videos, and then, of course, the only prop they can get is, like, a small Billy. So when you actually see him, like, kind of life-size, it's a lot more unsettling.
Oh, God, yes. And he's got and this one especially has the glowing eyes. And they still have the animatronic Billy puppet on the little tricycle.
Yeah. He has not figured out animatronics as much, Mr. Jigsaw, but you can't have it all.
Mr. Jigsaw.
Or Mr. Jigsaw. Yeah.
I like that. All right. Any other thoughts?
Clean out.
All right. I hope they make more Saw movies, because I do like the series, and and you know what? I think we could follow this guy and we can learn some more about him. And it's always great hearing Tobin Bell do this crap. So
yes, more of him. I'm interested in a new guy. More sequels, and just number them. Just number them. Don't get ashamed.
Let's actually make Saw 9.
Saw 9. Yep.
We are going to have Saw X. I just know it.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm fine. I am fine with the colon blah blah blah. If there's still a number in there, like The Last Blood takes Manhattan.
Saw X is where we go to space.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it. That's one.
You spent your entire life as an astronaut living in the International Space Station. But perhaps where you should have been living is in your home.
Well, oh my God. But then they get out of the trap just fine because all astronauts are the peak of athleticism and physicists. And Jigsaw's like, fuck.
No. Our latest new Jigsaw talent, genetic engineering, he's created a life form specifically to torment them.
Oh my God.
Well, she made like a list of all of Jigsaw's skills he needed to have to pull all this crap off. It's like a list of like 15 different professions that require advanced degrees.
God, I would love to see that character sheet.
How many points did he put in chemistry? And clearly he has charisma already.
That's why he had to take the disadvantage of brain cancer.
There you go.
Oh God, I'm awful.
So yeah, Saw, Jigsaw, good stuff. Go if you're a fan of the series. I don't know if this one will make you a fan of the series, but it was enjoyable for me as a fan.
It's all because it's Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Halloween, let's talk about trailers, because we got a few. We got that, I think it's called Daddy's Home, too.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a Daddy's Home 1. I don't go to movies enough to see comedies with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
Basically imagine Meet the Fockers with, Mark Wahlberg,
Will Ferrell, and then
and
then for some reason we decided to let Mel Gibson back into the fold.
Yeah, Mel Gibson.
And
the dad from Third Rock.
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow.
See, John Lithgow looked great in that because it's the kind of thing that he does so well. And actually, I've seen, having watched now Tales from the Crypt and a few other horror anthologies, man, John Lithgow can play a good villain.
Okay. Actually, he kind of scared me when I was a kid. So yeah, point taken. He is Will Ferrell's dad in this movie, and it's a good casting. We also get John Cena.
John Cena's there.
I'm just intrigued. I want to see him. I want to see his acting chops. I mean, he's probably been in plenty of stuff, but
it's also an odd trailer to attach. Well, he was in Fred the movie.
Yeah, and I think he's probably also in one of the Scooby-Doo and WWE crossovers.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to be, right?
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. At least 2 haunted house movies. One was an Insidious film. I've only seen the first Insidious, so I don't know if this is going to be any good. But I like haunted house stuff.
Insidious: The Last Key. No, it looked really cool. I don't know if that old lady, is she the protagonist in it?
Not exactly.
She's just a recurring character.
Basically, think of the paranormal investigators in Poltergeist.
Okay.
But if they followed them around for movies instead.
Oh, okay.
So we don't see them. She comes in halfway into the first Insidious, and apparently the second and third one follow her a bit more closely with some other stuff. I heard second one was bad. I don't know about the third one.
Okay.
But you know what? I'll take longer running horror stuff again. I like long running series. I think I've talked about this before, even on Twitter, about man, a lot of modern horror these days. We don't have monsters. We have vague, dark, evil forces, and I think that seems to be the continuing case here. I
think people feel like, or maybe Hollywood feels like they're not realistic, that people don't believe them, but they'll believe the vague evil or something. But,
yeah.
People just like monsters. I'm intrigued to see if we'll get to see more of Keyblade Ghost. I'm intrigued to see if the old lady will get a Keyblade and fight against that big dark force, the Heartless.
Yep. We had a movie based off of the Winchester House.
Yeah, that looked cool, and it seemed like part biopic, part horror movie.
And it works well because the Winchester House is one of those cool stories that works well for a haunted house story. And I think I've heard before that it's supposed to be like the most haunted place ever.
Yeah, like I've heard it mentioned in loads of like ghost hunter shows.
Inspiration for Stephen King's Rose Red.
Okay.
I love that idea of like mad people who keep building onto a house with staircases that lead nowhere, rooms that make no sense. I love spatial distortion in horror. And stuff like that. There's like great breakdowns of The Shining, where like if you actually follow the blueprints of how the Overlook Hotel is supposed to work, it makes no sense architecturally. Like clearly, like you can see like when you pass along a hallway, there are like doors in this hallway, but if you actually look on the other side, there's nothing on that other side.
Interesting. Okay.
Just fascinating stuff like that. You know, it's just subtle and it makes you and. You don't see it, but your brain does.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, what else did we get? I think we got another horror movie, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't there was the Insidious one. I thought the Winchester House was going to be like that Amityville movie that apparently just came out. Yeah. That's been sitting on a shelf for 5 years because that's what we needed, more Amityville movies. They're like up to like 17 now.
Whoa.
Most of them direct to DVD.
That's going head to head with the Land Before Time series.
And of course, they're not like recurring things. There was a recurring Amityville series for like the first 8 movies, if you can call it that, considering it blows up twice.
Oh my god!
It blows up in the second one, and it blows up in the third one.
Oh.
And the second one was supposed to be a prequel, so.
Okay. It's almost like. What was the one that Lupa reviewed? Witches?
Yes.
13?
Yep.
That had 13 sequels?
Witchcraft.
And then more. Witchcraft.
Which recently had 3 more sequels come out.
Oh, yeah.
And she reviewed those.
Oh my god. That's a busy series.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible to me, and I love that kind of long-running thing. I want more Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th movies in the original canon. Robert Englund's not going to come back to do them, unfortunately.
No, he's retired from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see more Friday the 13th ones. I didn't care that much for that one remake that they had.
I watched it. It was
fine.
It was okay. I mean, probably the best of all those weird remakes we had around the same time.
Yeah, God, the Halloween remake for I did not care for that one.
That's okay. We're gonna get H4O in the next year or two.
Oh yes.
Apparently,
I'm excited for that.
Apparently, we're ignoring H2O as well.
Yeah, you know what? That's all right. It's okay.
It's called. I think they're calling it Halloween Returns.
Halloween Returns. Okay.
So basically, they just decided, you know what? We don't like the.
We've already had Halloween 5. Michael Myers Returns. Come on.
Just at this point, just make it an anthology. Who cares at this point?
Oh man.
Make we had Friday the 13th the series. Let's have Halloween the series, where like maybe Michael Myers shows up once or twice.
Already tried that, and you know what? I didn't like the third one. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen the third one, but from what I did see of it, I was not impressed by it. I know a lot of people have given it a second look and said like it's actually pretty good, but I think it involves like robots at some point, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, sure. I'll reference the Silver Shamrock theme. I have the mask right here.
There you go.
But
it's weird. It would be like really, I don't know. It's like it's trying to be like a really interesting Twilight Zone episode and a mystery that was meant to be solved at the same time. I don't know. It just, I don't know. We would have to go on a whole thing to kind of discuss problems with it, but not a fan.
I'm trying to think of any other trailers we got, but I can't think of any.
Yeah. Oh, we got the Justice League movie.
Oh, yeah, we got Justice League and Black Panther, actually.
Black Panther looked awesome.
See, those fit at least a little bit better with Jigsaw than the family comedy. And Justice League, man, oh man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've heard it's now, like, the official running time is now 1 hour and 50 minutes, and and that's like the shortest of any of the DC cinematic universe. So, but you know what? The bits looked fun. I'm looking forward to Jason Momoa as Aquaman because I like Jason Momoa, and he seems to be going for the bearded Aquaman look. I like that look.
Yeah. No trident hand though.
No trident hand. Maybe we're saving that for the sequel.
Just regular trident staff.
We got the Flash. We got lots more Wonder Woman footage in there because, of course, we got to have Wendy because that was the only good one of these.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna bring in people without Wendy.
And we'll see how far into the movie Superman is resurrected. Thanks for blowing your load on that one. Batman v Superman: Giant Monsters All Out Attack.
Wait, he died in that one?
He dies at the end of the movie. We do the whole Death of Superman thing, and it's just like.
I hope
it's the second movie in the franchise, and you're killing him off already? Really?
Oh, man. Yeah, you kind of got to build that one up. I hope we get him coming back with the electrical powers. So.
That would be cool. Electric Blue Superman comes in and stops, who was the villain in this? Steppenwolf? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Such bizarre choices. Black Panther looks good.
Black Panther looked really awesome. So, yeah, it starts off right in the beginning. There's this guy. He's there's this secret civilization in Africa. It's great technology, super advanced art, peace. It's awesome. Let me tell you where it is so you can fuck with it. It's God damn it, no!
That guy is the same guy from Age of Ultron who got his arm cut off.
Okay. Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's... Alright.
So he's already established as a villain.
Okay, so just... fucker.
Yeah. I love that guy, though, in Age of Ultron, because Ultron cuts his arm off. She's like, oh god, I'm so sorry, man! That was totally an accident! I know you didn't like Age of Ultron, but oh man, there are bits of that movie I just love.
That's good. Yeah, that one was a hard one for me.
Well, hopefully you'll like Infinity War when that comes out.
Yeah, hopefully so.
All right, any other final thoughts about the trailers or Jigsaw?
I like Jigsaw. It feels like it fits right in with the other, what do they call it? Mythology of slasher villains. If you think about it, human-sized kaiju.
Do you think you're going to start watching Saw now after some of the Saw movies after seeing this?
I could watch them. Yeah, I would watch them.
All right. That's it for us. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.